Judas Iscariot's betrayal represents the documented progression of misaligned political and financial expectations. But long before the silver traded hands, Judas was an active, deeply trusted participant in the inner circle of Jesus' ministry. His name establishes a unique geographical background. Iscariot likely derives from the Hebrew phrase Ish-Kriot, meaning the man from Kerioth, a town in southern Judea. This detail isolated him demographically from the rest of the 12 disciples, who were exclusively Galileans. In first-century Judea, the prevailing political climate was tense. Many anticipated a militant political messiah, a conqueror sent to violently overthrow Roman occupation and restore the nation's sovereignty. Judas likely shared these expectations of worldly power and success. Despite this underlying ideological friction, his peers trusted him completely with their survival. He was appointed the group's treasurer. According to the Gospel of John, Judas physically carried the glossocomen, the communal money box, giving him unmonitored control over the group's finances. He was perfectly positioned for influence, making his eventual fall a product of calculated disillusionment. We see the exact moment this disillusionment turns into financial extraction in the 12th chapter of John, during a gathering in Bethany. Mary takes a pound of expensive, pure nard and anoints Jesus' feet, filling the house with the fragrance of the perfume. The text explicitly values this perfume at 300 denarii. This chart shows the rapid accumulation of value based on a first-century wage. 1 denarius equaled a single day's wage for a common laborer. 300 denarii visually equates to nearly a full year of grueling daily labor. Watching this wealth poured out on the floor, Judas offers a seemingly pious argument. He demands to know why the perfume wasn't sold and the money given to the poor. The scriptural reality beneath the public piety is stark. The author of the Gospel clarifies that Judas did not actually care about the poor. He was a thief. Because he managed the glossokomon, he was actively skimming money from the group's treasury for personal gain. His ultimate treason was preceded by this hidden pattern of treating his spiritual calling as a mechanism for financial extraction. Sober, that pattern of extraction reaches its climax in the Gospel of Matthew, when Judas approaches the chief priests to negotiate a surrender. The agreed-upon price to hand over Jesus is 30 pieces of silver. This specific price carries an intentional insult. Under Old Testament law in Exodus 21:32, 30 pieces of silver is the exact compensation paid to an owner if their slave is gored by an ox. This transactional sum connects directly to prophetic writings. Passages in Zechariah 11 and Jeremiah detail 30 pieces of silver thrown to a potter, showing the betrayal functioning as a mechanism of divine fulfillment. Because of this biblical weight, these specific coins transcended mere currency to become enduring symbols of treason throughout Christian history. By the Middle Ages, they evolved into venerated relics with deep mythologies. Medieval theologians tracked the supposed destination of the silver, writing elaborate histories tying the money to Abraham, the Queen of Sheba, and eventually to a potter's field for the burial of pilgrims. These 30 pieces of silver functioned as a profound theological mechanism, bridging ancient prophecy with the ultimate act of treason. We see the psychological aftermath of the betrayal in Matthew 27, when Judas realizes that Jesus has been condemned to death. He is overcome with deep psychological regret, returning the 30 silver coins to the chief priests and confessing he betrayed innocent blood. To understand his fate, we have to look at the theological demarcation between two distinct types of grief found in the original Greek texts. The term associated with Judas's actions is metamelemai. It translates to a psychological remorse, a feeling of regret, and a fatalistic despair over the consequences of an action. Contrast this with the term associated with Simon Peter's reaction to his own betrayal, metanoia. This translates to true repentance, a change of mind that actively turns the individual back toward God. Historical commentaries, like the notes in the Geneva Bible, state that Judas's ultimate sin was his despair in God's mercy. He abhorred his sin, but he sought his own destruction rather than forgiveness. The nature of their repentance determines the eternal demarcation between the saved Peter and the damned Judas. This fatalistic despair leads directly to the end of Judas's life, recorded in two seemingly disparate biblical accounts. Matthew 27 records that after returning the money, Judas departed and committed suicide by hanging himself. The subsequent account in the book of Acts describes him falling headlong, his body bursting open in a purchased field. Historical critical scholars often harmonize these texts by noting the geography of the area. It is likely that the hanging apparatus failed, or a branch broke, causing his body to fall over the rocky, uneven terrain. The priests used his blood money to purchase this exact geographical location, Akeldama, known as the Field of Blood. The physical gruesomeness and isolation of Akeldama perfectly mirrors the spiritual reality of a completely corrupted and unrepentant heart. Harboring hidden motives for worldly success while maintaining a spiritual calling leads to inevitable ruin. The biblical countermodel to the life of Judas Iscariot is found in the New Testament letter to the Colossians, chapter 3. The verse mandates that whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. It demands pure motives and authentic stewardship over calculated self-gain. For those whose motives fail, the biblical narrative provides the active turning of metanoia over the fatalistic despair of metamelomai. To study this trajectory, track the progression through the text. The timeline spans his appointment in Matthew 10, the financial extraction in John 12, the betrayal and death in Matthew 26 and 27, the aftermath in Acts 1, and the mandate of Colossians 3. Judas Iscariot remains history's definitive warning that proximity to the divine cannot save a heart sold out to worldly gain.